Do you ever feel like growing your city in Cities Skylines is more frustrating than fun? Either you again ran out of money or your city just wouldn't want to grow? You hop on the YouTubes looking for guidance and all you see are these big grandiose cities which make you think, wow, this is awesome, I could never do that. Newsflash, your way of playing Cities Skylines is probably going to change drastically after this video, because I will drown you in all the game mechanics knowledge involved in the city's growth. Before we start though, I want to thank all of you guys for your comments, which made me realize that I really had to continue this tutorial series. And also sometimes I really struggle with communicating, so if you have questions and you need answers, help me out by being as precise as possible. Hello peeps, Stronger there. Back in our tutorial city we reached a new milestone during the last episode. I placed the high school and a park off camera, and the city is doing pretty well in the sense of we are making an income. So now I'm going to let the game run and you please focus on these numbers. Not only because this video needs some less boring visuals, but also because I have a lot of explaining to do. Yeah, we need to change the series format, because that is so much DLC stuff, which is cool and all, but I think this series should focus on basic game mechanics, because not all of you have all those DLC. But since I started this series talking about which DLC offers better solutions and such, let's give you a quick rundown. Let's start with the Park Life DLC, one of the most beloved DLC in the community, because instead of just plopping down assets which provide a leisure space for your citizens, you can shape, create and build your own city parks, zoos, amusement parks with a lot of rides and nature reserve. Rock solid DLC, as it comes with its own little mini game of how to build parks to actually make them turn in a profit from visitors. Second is the Industries DLC. This is one of my favorites, as I wouldn't want to miss it in Cities Skylines, for it adds warehouses and an entire different industry approach to the game, which is awesome also because the implementation into the existing game is so beautiful. Then there is plazas and promenades. This is a tricky one for me, because, well, it adds nice wall-to-wall buildings, but the implementation of the pedestrian areas themselves, like we are given service points and these provide goods and services to the buildings within the area by means of magical transportation. Next would be Concerts, which is a mini DLC consisting of a few assets but an entire mechanic around managing concerts, events and festivals. It's nice to have, solid for a mini expansion, I'd say. And Sunset Harbor, this DLC does a lot of things. It adds the fishing industry, lots of different assets that really round the game up, for example inland water treatment plants, which you will need if you're playing a desert map. It also adds new ways for public transportation, but hardly anyone uses helicopters or trolley buses because, well, try them out once and you'll not use them anymore. Same sadly goes for the new approach for garbage collection, which is a nice concept, but the implementation just does not work for bigger cities. But it's alright, good to have. Then if you have the Hotels and Retreats mini DLC, you'd get your first hotels. That is a mini DLC which lets you manage your own hotel chain in the city. Now, with that out of the way, important for us right now are parks to cover our citizens' need for leisure, landscaping, second level education and libraries. Leisure introduces the last service delivery mechanic the game has available for us, kind of marking the end of the early game. And it's very simple as well, as it's just a point blank radius that in comparison to education or healthcare does not even require roads to spread. Yes, there is more stuff to come later in the game, desk care, the level 3 education and such, but in regards of talking about mechanics of service delivery, we got every model in the game available to us with this milestone. Because desk care works like healthcare and universities are again just a bigger form of school. And all the upgraded versions of previous buildings are just working the same as the ones we already know. Quiz question. A service building costs 20,000 and has a maintenance cost of 200 per week. Would you rather provide this to 150 or 300 citizens? Of course, to as many taxpayers as possible, because they can cover the upkeep cost, right? In that sense, services at first seem like a budget drain. But let's compare two buildings of the same footprint. This one houses 3 households. and this one houses 6 households. Why is that? Yes, because of higher building level. And what causes a building to level up? Land value. What you need to understand about land value and how it is generated is that each time a building levels up, it increases the land value in its surroundings, which then in turn can cause neighbors to level up as well, often causing a ripple effect. This, my friend, is the key for making money in the game. You saw that I spent some hard-earned city cash on this library that costs 400 upkeep per week, right? And look at this. At the moment our budget reached our initial starting point again, our income is not 400 lower. And the building only affected this small area around itself, because in this part nobody lives there. The Sims in Cities Skylines prefer to have as much services around them as possible, even though the wilds, especially with access to water, also has its charm. So when we are stacking all services on top of each other, this will cause affected buildings to increase their levels and thus increasing land value, and this then increases density, meaning more taxpayers in the same area. This is how you should grow your city first before zoning new areas. You might have noticed I deviated from the script here because the game distracted me, but gladly I was recording this because I'm actually doing a lot of stuff that you are supposed to be doing in your city as well while letting it grow. So I'm adding all these written remarks on the screen for you to know what I was thinking and how I reacted to that, while we are going to talk about how the education system works. A citizen's life in Cities Skylines starts as children, becoming teenagers, young adults, seniors, and then they die. Children are uneducated, so they are visiting elementary school to become educated, and their options of transportation are limited to walking or biking if you also have the After Dark DLC. Educated teenagers then visit high school to become well-educated young adults. They can also utilize public transportation. Those well-educated young adults then visit university, buy all available sorts of transportation to become highly educated adults. At this stage, they finally join the workforce of your city. Then at some point, they become seniors, stop working, and are now just enjoying life in hopefully your awesome city, until they die. 2 things to mention here. The higher a Sim's education level, the less resources they require and the less garbage they produce. And since your city keeps growing, you might wonder what the education level of a new citizen which moved in is. If the game generates a new family to move into our city, all their education levels are set by a random number generator, meaning you may get a family that is entirely uneducated. This is where the library comes in, as it is not just an expensive leisure building. If our new family settles in an area with access to a library, each family member is going to visit the library as kind of their first action after arrival, and then they are given a 50-50 role whether their education level is upped by 1 level or not. So given the location of our library, you probably know now in which direction our little town is going to expand. Another important thing about education is that it really requires time. I don't have the exact numbers, but it actually takes weeks for a kid to grow up to a teenager, for a teenager to become an adult, and so on. The point I'm trying to make here is that it is fine to look, observe, and optimize before trying to grow too hard, because this growing up mechanic alone will cause you trouble if you do not properly establish the education system. This delay of effect gives you enough time to plan your growth and optimizing in the meantime. So we are delaying here because we want to keep the money flowing in before we advance too fast. Quick word about policies. As soon as you get the education boost policy, make sure to activate it to prevent the constant not enough educated workers issues. Later in the game, you will also get the Industry 4.0 policy. This one counters unemployment on the other end of the spectrum when you might have too many highly educated Sims for the more simpler industry jobs. So activate those citywide as soon as you get them. Now, how to expand our little village? We want to do that strategically. Meaning, we are not expanding to reach a new milestone, we are expanding when it is the right time to do so. At least in this stage of the game. Later, this does not matter anymore, as you will constantly have the money to do everything you want. But for now, let us first check whether it would be a good time to expand. A good time would be when everything has leveled up and the city's growth is starting to stall. Now let's check housing levels. Nah, definitely not there yet. So we better take it slow and give them more time. We want to make full use of all the provided services to maximize our income before we start spending a load of money on an expansion. Next, we need to check if we would have to make further investments right after hitting the next milestone. Kind of, we are getting desk care and eventually we'll have to place a cemetery pretty quickly. The thing is, we will probably blow past that one, so nothing new here. But again, lots of potential for optimization with the bigger police and fire stations. Yeah, we also get hospitals, but trust me, we do not need them yet. Next consideration, is our infrastructure decent enough to support further growth? Well, it is keeping up, so it's good for now, but might become busy after the expansion. So we probably will have to invest in a proper road system. Could be a good topic for a follow-up video, don't you think? Checking in on some city vitals. We will need one, probably better 2 more wind turbines. That would be 12k. We have some leeway with water and sewage, as we still keep their budget low. We first should crank that up to 100%. Garbage is fine. We will need a new elementary school, that would be another 10k. New fire, medical and police would be another 34k. And some more parks. Rounded up, we should have at least 60,000k in the bank before expanding. Now, isn't that a sight for sore eyes? This darker color indicates we are ready for an expansion. So I just continued our grid on the space I want to expand to. Then we place all the required services, so their zones of influence slightly reach into the already covered spaces, increasing service coverage percentage there. 60k was probably a bit too optimistic, but as of now we are still making money, so should be good. Now let me zone stuff. I like to build commercials around services, so basically whether you need groceries or you need to report some crime, it leads you into the same area where all the shops are around, so your likelihood of buying something increases and those commercials will love you for it. Also, I like to put smaller pockets in the residential area because kids have pocket money, and as we already know, their only mode of transportation is walking, so to keep the commercials within reach, you want some around the corner shops sprinkled within. And let me emphasize sprinkle here, because if you ever want to build a downtown, you do not want to move commercial zones. So zone them sparsely for now. Best time to build a downtown is when the commercial demand is as high as possible. Build up that commercial demand while expanding by always keeping it growing, so you have enough demand for a great downtown later. Alright, so let it run. And of course, Noobish McNoobdrag forgot to lay water pipes. It's alright, they haven't moved in yet, and we are making good money, so shouldn't be an issue. Thing is, for Dragon, this pissed me off one day so much that I just laid them in advance for the entire part of the city I wanted to do. This held up until recently. Now for the new area I need to do that. Just checked again, so the cool thing about a milestone is we got some reward money. Let's check what we need. We are a bit low on power and we got these bad boys now. I think one of them should suit us nicely. And then I want a park here because of power and the cemetery over here. And while we're at it, let's also crank up water and sewage budget. And also we have jobs demand. Now if you do not know what I'm doing here right now, then you missed out on the last episode of the series, because we do not just zone new industry. I thought it is time for a change in perspective, and it seems right in time for watching people moving in. The thing is though, this junction is vanilla and thus only lets pass one car through at a time, creating all this build-up. That is not an issue as they only move in once, so after they moved in, the junction should be able to stabilize again. But this shows clearly what we need to work on next time. Now we're still far from checking out the result, so I'd like to bridge the time a bit. I had to invest in power to do that and also some industrial zoning, but pretty much then I just went for a walk and let it grow. Then I came back and watched some traffic, started to check the city's vitals and waited for the milestone. What should I tell you? We again needed more power. The fire stations I put a bit far apart, but doesn't matter. But everything else, nothing noteworthy to talk about. As predicted, we are just going to blast past the milestone, because imagine when all those new buildings as well would level up to the higher levels, then we are eventually reaching the big town milestone as well. Anyway, I think if you paid attention, then you should know how to grow a city now. So my part is done. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time. Bye.